Did you know that in 2024, over 1 million county court judgments, commonly referred to as CCJs, were registered against people in the UK? So, if this applies to you and you're worried how this might affect your chances of mortgage approval, then spoiler alert, it's not all doom and gloom, so I suggest that you stick around. For anyone who doesn't know what a CCJ is, let me quickly explain. It's when a court makes an official decision and says you owe someone money and you haven't paid. And if you have a CCJ registered against you, it will show on your credit report, and some of the key details that it will show are the amount that was registered against you, the date that it was originally registered, and the amount that you still owe, or whether this has been paid back. If it has been paid back, then the date it was paid back, and finally, the name of the court that issued the judgment against you. So yeah, if you've got one of these, it's not exactly in an ideal situation, but it's also not the end of the world either. So now you know what a CCJ is, you probably want to know, is it possible to get a mortgage with one? And the short answer is yes, it is. Does that mean that every single person who has a CCJ will be approved for a mortgage? No, of course not. There will be lots of other factors that go into the decision-making process as to whether a mortgage lender is going to approve your mortgage. So there are a few key things that the mortgage lender will want to know about the CCJ before agreeing to lend you the money. These are in no particular order. Number one, when the CCJ was originally registered against you. Number two, how much deposit you have or how much equity you have in your home if you're remortgaging. And number three, how much the CCJ was originally registered for. Number four, what was it registered for? Number five, has the CCJ been paid off? And number six, why was it registered in the first place? There will be multiple other things that the mortgage lender will want to understand before agreeing to lend you the money for the mortgage, such as details of your income, your employment status, your nationality, and whether you have any other bad credit. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and unpack these 6 points together. Number one, when was the CCJ registered against you? Alongside how much deposit you have, this will be the biggest factor that the mortgage lender will want to know. And the golden rule when it comes to this is the longer time that has passed since the CCJ was registered, the higher your chances of mortgage approval will be. The exact time frames go hand in hand with how much deposit you need. So in the next point, I'm going to break down exactly how much deposit you need, dependent on when the CCJ was registered. Number two, how much deposit will you need, depending on when the CCJ was registered. Now, if your CCJ was registered for an amount under £500, or if it was registered for something like a mobile phone contract, then take what I'm about to say with a pinch of salt, because some exceptions can be made, and we'll come more onto that shortly. If your CCJ was registered between 6 months and 2 years ago, you're likely going to need at least a 15% deposit, but most lenders are going to want to see that CCJ registered at least 1 year ago. If your CCJ was registered between 2 and 3 years ago, you're likely going to need at least a 10% deposit. And finally, if it was registered over 3 years ago, you might even be able to get away with a 5% deposit. And number three, how much was the CCJ originally registered for? If your CCJ was registered for under £500, or better yet, under £300, some lenders are just going to completely ignore this. Yep, like it never happened, and you might even get away with as little as a 5% deposit. Crazy, I know, right? So remember, the golden rule, the lower the value of the CCJ that was registered, the higher your chances will be of mortgage approval. Number four, what was it registered for? So, like the last point, depending on the type of account that the CCJ was registered for, it can make a difference. If it was registered for something known as a communications account, for example, a mobile phone contract or a broadband account, then some lenders will be able to ignore this CCJ completely. And what that can mean is that you might, just like before, be able to get a mortgage with as little as a 5% deposit. And five, has the CCJ been paid off? Quite a short and simple one really. If the CCJ has been paid off, it can increase your options, and it can increase your chances of mortgage approval. That's not me saying go and pay it off and you'll definitely be approved. What I am saying is if you have paid the CCJ back, it's likely that you will have more options. When it was paid off can also be a factor here too, with the typical rule being the longer ago it was paid off, the more favourably it will be looked upon. And finally, number 6, why was it registered in the first place? Some lenders can take into account what led to the CCJ being registered in the first place. For example, if you could evidence that certain unprecedented life events led to the CCJ being registered, some lenders can take this into account. Examples of life events that we're talking about here would be something like falling seriously ill. Perhaps you might have got cancer, meaning that you ultimately couldn't pay your bills, or perhaps you went through something like a messy divorce. Things like this will always be looked on more favourably than someone who maybe just took out a load of credit cards, ran up some debt, and decided not to pay these back. So there you have it. A CCJ doesn't have to spell the end of your home ownership dreams. By understanding where you are today and taking certain proactive steps, you can still get a mortgage, move forwards with your plans, even if it requires a little bit of hard work. If you have any questions about future ideas or future videos, please feel free to put those in the comments below. Alternatively, you can email us using the email in the description below. So, thanks for watching. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications for all things bad credit and bad credit mortgage related, and we'll see you in the next video.